My name is Jay. Welcome to the show.
Who's the podcast host that you love the most? Coming to you live from coast to coast. Call me Thunderlip, Spaceman, or G. It's just me being native as I can be.
Yeah. All right. This is a very new experience for me being on TikTok Live. But if you don't know, my name is Geno Ray, and I'm the host of a podcast called Native as I Can Be, which explores for people like me who are mixed race or adoptees or trans or any sort of person that has grown up feeling like they're living in between cultures, whether it's white culture, native culture, black culture, having a birth family, an adoptive family. What the podcast does is try to explore those spaces and help people realize that they're not actually living in between, but they're actually living in both, which could be an advantage. And so that's what the podcast is normally about. And we're gonna switch it up a little bit today and talk about physical and mental health. And contacted my friend Jade here, and we're gonna talk about all things healthy, and especially I think as it pertains to men. Wouldn't you say, Jade?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we need the most help.
Yeah.
I mean, when you initially reached out to me, one of the reasons why I wanted to jump on it so much is because I've been diving down this unaliving rates, self-harm rates, and demographics therein, and we're the number one. So men our age, either white men our age or indigenous men our age, we're constantly flip-flopping for the number one self-harm demographic. And so I was like, it's kind of important to talk about that, because it's very interesting that our two demographics would be switching so much.
We should tell people how we know each other.
Yeah. Do you want to tell her, or do you want me to?
Well, I guess we can kind of jump in. I think there used to be a bar there on Chinden Boulevard in Boise called Savvy's, and I wandered in there. I don't remember exactly the first time I came in, but you were like a bar manager there, right? Something like that. And yeah, so I don't know the exact origin, but that became kind of my spot. And so this would have been in like 2003 or 2004, somewhere in there. So 20 plus years we've known each other. And this bar used to be one of my favorite things that ever came out of that bar. Was I walked in one day and my dad was visiting from Portland, and we walked into the bar and you were on the mic, and like as soon as we walked in the door, you said, "Oh no, not only do we now have one Geno fucking Ray, now we have two Geno fucking Rays." And my dad told that story till he died. He told that story about walking into a bar in Boise and everybody already knew who he was. I love that story. That totally made his day, that his reputation preceded him. I love that story. What do you remember about it?
Actually, I do remember that minute because I think he and I ended up bullshitting for quite a bit of time that night. But yeah, so you were one of the very first like regular groups of patrons we had there. We had just started doing karaoke there, and that was right before I became a partner in that business. So I became a partner about a year later, 2004, 2005, and that's when I became part owner of that. But I mean, you were an asset to that place because you had such a good time and you just had zero fucks to give. As soon as you got on stage, you were just like, I'm going to have a good old time. Geno and his strip teases. And we had this, handsome 20-something young buck up there taking his shirt off while he's dancing and singing, and all of the ladies were like, Geno.
Oh, yeah.
It was awesome. It was awesome. Those were the days.
That was when everybody that remembers the Janet Jackson incident, that's when I saw it. There was a Super Bowl party at Savvy's, and I happened to be looking down, scooping up more food, and then I hear you again on the mic, like, did she just pop a titty out? And I was like, what? Wait, what? What? You got to be kidding me. Like,
yes. Oh my gosh.
yeah.
And didn't they, like, they blacked out the broadcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like,
yeah,
man, why?
Yeah.
We finally had a chance to see Janet Jackson's titty, and they blacked out the whole broadcast.
Yeah. Yeah, so Savvy's was fun. And then I remember another night having a bit of a tiff with the girl I was seeing at the time. And so I just wandered down, had no money, did not have a dime, but I just knew I couldn't stay where I was at. And then it was like every time you would pour shots for anybody, I would end up with one, or you'd say, I'm going to do a shot. You want a shot? I'm like, yeah. And then if my beer was empty, you just fill it. I mean, so I walked out of there completely sauced and didn't spend a dime. But I mean, that was but I think you got where I was coming from.
Yeah, I mean, we took care of our own there. That's why that bar was so successful. I think there was probably 4 different owners in that location in the prior 3 years to us. And then when I took that bar over, because it almost tanked before I took it over as the manager. In fact, like, that's how the whole thing worked out. Like, it was tanking remember, it originally started as a heavy metal bar. Mm-hmm. And it was just going through the floor. And I was I was telling the owner at the time, you can't make a business run in this town when you're catering to a clientele that live paycheck to paycheck, and then half their paychecks go to weed. Like, it's just, you're not going to make a bar work like that. And he was just adamant that was how he wanted a heavy metal bar. And I was like, that's fine. And at one point he was just like, you know what? I'm closing the doors. And I was like, well, why don't you give me the keys before you close the doors? Mm-hmm. Just give me the keys and walk away. And then at the end of the month, you can come pick up your check, And then, and that's what happened. And then after a year, he made me a partner and all that kind of stuff. But that's when we switched from doing metal all the time to doing karaoke, because everybody loved, that was when karaoke was hot, and that stage was hot for karaoke, And so all of, like, our original people, we just took care of, like, and it always came back around. People would bring their friends, their dad, whoever. And so it was never like, my cost on this shot is $2, my cost on this beer is 70 cents. I can handle taking care of one of my regulars if they're out, And at one point, that little bar, believe it or not, that little bar in Idaho was 16th in total liquor sales in the state of Idaho, was Club Savvy's. That's how bad we fucking crushed it there.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah. All right. I'll share one more Savvy story, and then we should probably get going, because otherwise it's going to be a 2-hour reminiscing podcast, which is fine. I'd be happy to do that. There was one time, I can't remember what the occasion was, but the place was just packed. It was like a Saturday night, and I think it might have been me and my friend David, or me and my friend Alex, one of the two. But we met some fellas who had access to things, and we were walking out to the parking lot for a little bit of that booger sugar. And so we're walking out, the whoever these dudes were kind of leading. My friend was following, and I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to take a piss real quick. So I went into that little alley right next to Savvy's, peed on like a garden shed or something, and turned around. And as I'm zipping up, there's like Garden City police standing right there. And I'm like, hey, what? And they're like, hey, what were you doing back there? And I was like, just checking out the scenery. And the cop, of course, being a smart ass, oh, it looked like you were watering the scenery. I was like, so I ended up getting a urinating in public ticket. And as soon as the cops, or as soon as that group of guys saw the cops talking to me, they immediately bolted back inside. And the cop was like, oh, well, where did your buddies go? Well, I'm like, I don't even know them, dude. Like, those aren't my friends. And, it was a funny thing. And I also think that holding up my urinating in public ticket got me a free shot or a pitcher of beer or something like that. But I was like, whew, the 20s, to be in my 20s again.
Oh, that place was crazy.
Yeah.
That place was crazy.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, the old Boogerster. That was a different era.
Which, by the way, for anybody watching, is crushed up Smarties. That's
right,
what he's
yes.
talking. Crushed up.
Yes, and if you don't have Smarties, Pixie Sticks will do. It all depends on your personal, taste, I guess.
Because we never did anything illegal back in those days. Nothing. Just saying.
We'd have our Chardonnay at the bar, our Merlots, and yeah, just really classy.
Varied cheesecakes.
Right. Yes, and charcuteries. Yeah. All right. Anyways, that's fun. Can't wait for my kid to watch this back someday. But anyway, so yes. So for the podcast people listening, this is Jade Jesser. He's an author. He's an actor. I didn't know this. Yoga instructor. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah. I didn't know that till I was stalking your TikTok one day. So I want to get into some of these other things that you've been doing first. You wrote this book, Balefire. And when did you figure out that you had like a knack for writing? Or when did the idea strike you, and how long did that whole project take?
Oh man. Okay. Well, thank you for bringing up Balefire. That's my life passion. So I was one of these little kids, super poor. Grew up like one of the houses we had to shovel the dirt and the weeds out from the inside of the house to make it livable. So my mom worked however she could, and she used to bring home like meat wrapping paper, shiny side on one side, but the other side is normal paper. And I would roll that shit out at like 7 or 8 years old and draw like battle scenes and stories and stuff like that, like clear across the whole thing. And then I would start at one end, and whatever poor fucking adult was stuck with me had to go through the whole battle as the guy, did that. So I started telling stories at a real young age. And in fact, what was really funny is later on in life, I went to find out what my amakua was, Hawaiian, family spirit animal. And it's a funny story with that, but basically I found out it was a rooster. And I was like, oh, great. My family, I'm a cock. Yeah. That's great. But my kahuna, my spirit guy, teacher there, was like, no, the rooster's super important. They're the storyteller. They bring the story of the new day. And I was like, oh, well, that kind of makes sense,
Yeah.
So I started playing Dungeons and Dragons when I was a kid, and it wasn't cool to play back then. Like now it's cool, but back then we had like secret handshakes and stuff.
Yeah.
So nobody knew that we were doing it. And I started writing these, all of the characters in Balefire are iterations of either my players or my friends or my own characters from back in those days. And so the whole process of actually writing the book started when I was 19. I wrote the first draft of the first book, and it was terrible. And it was so embarrassing. Back in those days, you couldn't self-publish. You couldn't do anything. So I had sent out the manuscript to couple of different people that were just like, this is trash, don't even worry about it. And I was like, well, I'm never going to do this again. And then, you know, fast forward to 2012 after Savvy's, I was like kind of looking around. I went through this kind of transition about how much, you know, I was partying and how much we basically had this old regular at Savvy's that would come in every day at like 3:45, have a couple of whiskeys on the rocks and whiskey and Coke, and just long face, you know, the veins, the redness, and he would just bitch about his life. And one day he was sitting in there and just staring at the TV, and I was staring at him, and I was like, fuck, I don't want to end up like that.
Yeah.
And so this little voice, I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I'm so good at the bar business. Like at that point in my bar business, I was an owner at Savvy's. I was getting ready to open up a second bar. I was looking at opening up an event center, and I was contractually helping other people turn their businesses around as a bar business. So I was doing like this bar rescue thing on the side. And I was like, man, what am I going to do? And in the, like, what do I want to be when I grow up? A little voice in the back of my head said, you want to be a writer. And I was like, fuck you. Like, oh my God, it's so right. Like that is what I want to be when I grow up. And so I knew I needed an exit strategy from the business that was really good. And so what I ended up trying to do was finding some managers that could run my businesses for me so I could write books, and it ended up failing miserably. And I ended up losing my businesses altogether and just being like, well, screw it. I'm going to write a book. And what I did was I got into the closet and I got all of that shit that I wrote when I was 19, and I read through it again. I was like, well, this is garbage, but it's a lot of history. And since then, I was like 35 at this point. In all of those years in between, I had like been drawing pictures and, you know, drawing maps and kind of really coming up with this thing. So I had this whole history, and I just started over and wrote it and still plugging away at it. So
yeah, that's tight, man. So is there more to come? Is it part of the series? Are you going to try and spin it into a screenplay? What do you have in mind next?
So currently Balefire is 2 novels, book 1 and book 2. There will be 9. There's planned to be 9 for this particular group of characters. There is a comic book. There is a, what do you call it? A scene breakdown for hopefully some sort of animated series or something that takes place in the same world with a different group of characters. There's an audiobook, and then I am, with all of my acting buddies here, we're getting ready to record the second audiobook for the second book, and then the third book is in production. It's on hold because I'm writing another book about men's health.
Okay. We got a guest star here.
Yes, come here. Say hi to people. Yes.
We might get a Che run in too. He doesn't usually let me record these without coming in to say something.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I can't really be apart from him unless he's at school. He has to know what I'm doing at all times. But
how old is he?
He just turned 7 on the 30th, September 30th.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, my best friend, dude. We're so tight, and he's the bright spot a lot of times. So you brought up your acting buddies. How did you get into acting? Is that something you studied? Is it something you kind of wandered into? What was that? What's that journey like?
So I started acting in junior high, and then I got a whole bunch of scholarships to go be an actor for college. I actually ended up with my academics and my acting. I ended up with a full ride scholarship to a liberal arts school, and the professor there was creepy, to say the least, like hit on me and stuff. It was bad. And so I dropped out of acting and went into anthropology, where I had a fascinating professor that taught me a lot about First Nations people, and indigenous people in America. And so I spent a lot of time studying that. And then just as a mental health exercise, about 4 years ago, well, actually during Savvy's, I got a role in a feature-length film, a vampire film called The Sanguinarian, and that kind of kept my acting up. And then I started doing stand-up comedy to kind of keep my performance sharp.
Right.
And then I started acting again as a mental health thing about 4 years ago, and I've made probably 20 short films since then, won awards. The teams that I've worked with have been super talented. We've got stuff going to film festivals all over America right now, and it's fantastic. It's fantastic.
The one I liked, I like the one. I think you're kind of a handyman and then you have the young kid with you that you're kind of showing the ropes. I really liked that one. I've watched that one actually multiple times, and I like the, not to be too inside baseball here, but I like how like grounded you were and believable, and it was. I think the reason I liked it is knowing you as being kind of a effervescent, easy to talk to, and then you're doing this role and you're really kind of gruff and quiet, and you don't say a whole lot. I really, really liked that one. I haven't seen all your work, obviously, but I remember that one in particular as being like, wow, this guy's got some chops, because that's not him, at least not the him I know.
Yeah, that was a film called The Plunge, and it was directed by my buddy Levi, and it was just a magical set. Like, everything worked out there. So that young kid, I didn't know. His name's Peyton. I didn't realize that he had got casted in that part, but he's actually the son of a good friend of mine that I used to go to barbecues with and 4th of July with all the time. And so I remember Peyton as a little boy,
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, my buddy moved out of state, so he and I kind of lost touch. And then in the casting room comes an 18-year-old version of him, because he looks just like my buddy. And I was like, what? And so so right away there was already like fatherly feelings for the kid, because I wanted to make sure that he had a good experience on the set and stuff. So it was like just magical how that ended up being a lot more typecast than anybody would have thought that it was typecast. But there was just so many things that happened during the filming of that were just fantastic. And I think that ended up being quite a good film, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny that, so this is, I think, episode 5 since I restarted this thing. And just about everybody I've interviewed is either an author or an actor, in one case, a professional wrestler. But there's been this consistent theme of, not having these Brady Bunch upbringings, and that sort of lack of connection, I feel like, leads to creativity, because you're using this creative side of you to reach out and connect and be seen. And I think, and this probably feeds right into the mental health part of it, but I mean, I think the third author I've had on this in 5 episodes, and I just find that interesting that not so far to say as people are from broken homes or stuff, but there's some struggles that are leading to creativity.
I would agree with you there, because one of the things that I think people really fail to realize about emotional intelligence or creativity or even kind of mental instability, right? Like all of that stuff is physical. Your brain is a physical thing. And so just like any other portion of your body, it develops when it's trained. That's, I mean, it's trained a little differently. It's not, but like if you see a guy in the gym and, you know, every day is upper body's day, you know, he's going to end up with chicken legs. Yeah. And so that's the same way the brain works. So if you don't have a lot of like nurturing, you know, grounded guidance, you're kind of forced to develop these kind of outlets to that. And these outlets can either end up being brilliant creation, you know, hobby job type things, or they can go the other way and become addictions or sociopath, you know, kind of tendencies, or even psychopath or dark triad tendencies where people, you know, become very bad people and they turn off everything, you know? So it's like, what are you developing, you know? Either way, don't skip leg day, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I've dabbled in all of it as well. Like I've started screenplays, not finished, but I've done the acting stuff, did some wrestling training. And what my girlfriend Laura is, you know, I won't say constantly pushing on me, but she's gently reminding me that my brain works in a creative way and I tend to see things a little differently. And driving a forklift 40 hours a week does not exercise that muscle at all. And she can tell that she can tell if I'm 1 degree off. She knows me that well, and she's just perceptive. She's a social worker. She knows how to read people, and you know, she's always encouraging anything creative that I want to do because she knows that she doesn't want that muscle to atrophy, especially when it's pretty well developed. So I'm always giving her props for that because she's not going to let me just waste away in that way. And there's nothing wrong with driving a forklift, but and it also means I haven't taken a lot of risks as far as what I could be doing with what I've been given. I haven't really taken advantage of that.
Well, and you know, I'll tell you that and I tell everybody that, you know, I get in deep with in conversations or whatever, that the vast majority of people on this planet that have struggles, that's what they are. They're struggles. And those of us, especially yourself included, that have faced real and true loss and pain, sometimes don't realize that despite the cost, it is a tremendous gift to share with the world. Mm-hmm. And you don't get the levels of empathy that can motivate and influence and charge another person up unless you have bared that cost yourself, unless you have felt it. Like it's like there's a saying, like, in order for your branches to reach heaven, your roots got to reach hell. And like that's the truth when it comes to anybody that can inspire another person. It's like you can look at somebody like Elon Musk or our commander-in-chief or whoever you want to look at and be like, well, that's a great businessman. But it's like, no, dude was given millions of dollars when he was a kid. Like there's no motivation there. Like if you have any sense of self at all, you're like, well, if my parents gave me millions of dollars, I would be rich too, probably, you know?
Right.
Whereas somebody that's really been in the trenches of what it's like to be a human, that's where real inspiration comes from. That's where real motivation comes from, in my opinion.
I agree. Well, let's get into this heavy stuff. I mean, that was already heavy stuff, but the reason why we're here, I should say. Another thing I used to remember, I used to see you at Camel's Back every once in a while, doing sprints up that dirt hill. That was another thing. And I run sprints on the weekend now. I do the stairs, the bleachers at the high school. I do those once a week. And so clearly fitness has been part of your thing for a long time, as it was mine back then. But back then it was more for aesthetics. You know, if you're going to be taking your clothes off in front of a room full of people, you got to look the part. So it's always been a priority, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah. And you know, over the years, it's kind of been one of those things where at some point you realize that the aesthetics is a bonus, right?
Right.
Like that's the crazy beautiful thing about the human body, is that the more you work on your brain and the more that you realize that your brain is just a physical aspect of your body too. I mean, sure, you can have all sorts of existential thoughts, and we could dip into, like, you know, spiritual wiring and, you know, our universal Wi-Fi connectors that we have here and whatever we want to talk about. But ultimately, your brain juice and your cells are physical. And so if you're taking care of your physical, your brain gets better. And that's where I've always been. Like, I'm fucking crazy. So if I'm fucking crazy, like, I've got to make sure that, like, the variables are controlled in my body, which equates
Holy
to fitness.
Shit. I have not recorded the first 20 minutes of this. Jesus Christ.
This meeting is being recorded.
Oh, well, the meeting's being recorded now.
Hey, all right. Everybody missed a bunch of good stuff. That's all right.
We'll have to do it again then.
Yeah. All right. Well,
the nice thing is I have it recorded.
Okay. Well, there we go. That's funny. I got so hyped about it, I didn't even pause to actually take care of the technical part of it. All right. Okay. So, so what do you think is going on with men now? Why do you think health is being put on the back burner, or has it always been in the back? Physical health, I mean, and mental, I guess, too.
Well, I don't know as if it's, I don't, so, I mean, the short answer is I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. My area of expertise is anthropology. So, I take more of a bird's eye perspective of cultures, and I kind of look at cultures as a whole. And then I look at biology and how cultures and biology clash. And that's kind of like the basis of how I look at problems and issues altogether. So we have a couple of different problems with our culture and how our biology works. And not to get into too much, but like for Native American hunters, Spartan soldiers, soldiers in general, I guess, throughout your athletes, team athletes, throughout the whole kind of history of humanity, there is a camaraderie that's developed in between men to men specifically. And so men have enhanced vasopressin receptors. And vasopressin is a hormone that's released that's kind of related to dopamine. It's like a sister hormone to dopamine. And what it is it's released during the completion of a task. So if you could imagine a bunch of First Nations hunters going out to take down an elk somewhere, right? And they have to work, half of them are working their way up the ridge, the other half are working their way down the ridge. They don't got rifles, right? So they've got to get up close to this thing. They've got to corral it in. They got to get close enough to where somebody can take a good shot at it, right? And sometimes that somebody is maybe a young man this is his,
Right.
chance to,
Yep.
to bring it home. Right. And so they do it, right? They get the elk, and then all of them, the 8 or 10 guys that get together and they celebrate. They're like high five, and they're like, boom, boom, you did it, we did it. We've been out here for 4 days. Let's cut this thing up. Let's bring it back home. Eat do whatever, ritual to, send our elk brother away. And all of this stuff becomes this, like, we've done it exciting thing, right? And everybody's high-fiving. That's when vasopressin is released. And that creates the camaraderie around these groups of men. And that same thing occurs with, like I said, Spartan soldiers, winning a battle, or, however you want to look at it, but it's always been a thing. And nowadays in modern culture, thanks to capitalism, we, because of the greed associated with capitalism, the idea of camaraderie is becoming less and less and less and less important. In fact, it's just the opposite. So you want to be like, oh yeah, good job, Geno. I'm glad that you can drive that forklift. And then you're like, he doesn't know how to drive a forklift. He can't do it very well. Did you see the way he almost parked that crate sideways? So there's like, instead of the vasopressin release between two people, you have a competition. And that goes through almost every business. Even if they're blue collar workers, trying to do, the same job, there's like I've got to move up. I've got to make more money. I'm the one that needs the promotion. It's not a group effort,
Yeah.
And so in that way, capitalism is destroying the camaraderie that men once used and are literally biologically wired to use to connect to each other when shit goes south. Because here's the thing about vasopressin, and if there's any ladies that listen to this and you want a man to fall in love with you, okay, the first thing you need to do is start building something or doing something together that is task oriented. And as soon as you complete that task, high five each other and get stoked about it. You'll release vasopressin in his brain, and he will associate you with that victory, and he will become more loyal to you than otherwise. But that
sounds a lot more noble than the fake pregnancy.
Exactly. Or any of the dating culture stuff. It's like we've gone away from biology altogether when it comes to dating culture now. And it's like, no, this is not the way things are supposed to go. So ultimately, I think with First Nations people, and I can't speak to them because I'm not one, and white men, one of the kind of connected concepts might be, and I'm not saying it is, but it might be that there's sort of this drive to be a provider in a culture that doesn't necessarily allow your competence or your will to succeed in that providership.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why our demographics have the biggest problem.
Yeah. Speaking to the middle-aged man how old are you? I don't think you're much older than me.
I turned 49 September 5th.
Okay. Yeah. So I turned 46 in January. So yeah, it's interesting too, because I'm enjoying middle age, but I'm also my midlife crisis is not going to be a sports car and an influencer. I'm just becoming more aware. Like, I'm in the second half of life. I spent the first half working for the man. I'm kind of getting sick of it. And this is, I keep finding myself, fighting for little pieces of peace in my life. And, in our situation now, got a 17-year-old stepson, got my 7-year-old. Laura's mom just moved in with us. She has dementia, which is really challenging. And so I'm finding myself really frustrated a lot of the time, probably at more now than at any point in my life. And uh, and so I'm trying to find this podcast as part of that routine, is trying to find my little pieces of just serenity in my everyday life. But the flip side of that is I get frustrated that I have to seek out my own serenity. That part drives me crazy. And my therapist is always pinging me, well, take some time for yourself. And, leave the house if you have to. I don't want to leave the fucking house. I live here. It's my house. Why do I got to leave here to get peace? That drives me absolutely crazy. But every time I do a podcast, I feel amazing after. And then it's back to reality, which is
well, I mean, in a way, you're creating a tribe with your podcast. You're creating the camaraderie that is missing in culture. Like everything that I mean, you're reaching out to, like you said, a professional wrestler, a writer, all of these different people that you're connecting with. You're pulling those ideas, you're expanding your own thought processes, and you're creating, a support system of people that you don't even realize that you're affecting, because you don't know all of your watchers, and you won't know who's going to go back 5 years from now, once your podcast blows up, and watch all these old videos and be like, yeah, this dude went through it, So it's like you are actually tapping into this universal thing that we're all missing, because capitalism is the devil.
Yeah. No arguments here. So some of the stats I pulled up, and I don't know if this is the direction you want to take it or not, but 41% of U.S. adults over 20 are obese. 40, and then some of the stats for middle-aged men, 43% of white men in our age range have hypertension, 55 for natives, 46% obesity rate. It's about 45 to 64 for natives. Premature heart attacks are 14%, and for white men, 21% for natives. And I think with the natives, with us, a lot of that is, lack of access to healthcare and insurance and diet and physical activity. But in that, I'm sure that's a lower income too. So there's a problem. There's a problem here, and I'm not trying to say everybody needs to be a fitness model, but what do we need to be doing different?
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that when you look at men, so we do. This is kind of like bad on the other side. So if you watch women online, right, over the last, I don't know, maybe decade or so, what was once chubby is now curvy, right? So women have a way of supporting themselves through whatever, body issues they might have, by kind of nurturing each other in a sort of social sense, where I'm under the personal belief that they talk shit behind their backs, but like in the surface, everybody's getting that kind of reassurance that they're not pieces of shit, even if they're a little overweight. They're just curvy, and curvy is beautiful, right? For example, right? Whereas men, if a man is overweight, or a man has heart problems or whatever, there's not a lot of dudes reaching out being like, you're fine, bro, you're just curvy, right? You would never see men do that to other men. You in fact, men get this kind of sense of shame, and they just disappear. And that's where the danger comes in. So they get overweight for whatever reason. They've been depressed. They have no outlets for that. They can't swipe right on anybody on a dating app because nobody wants to date them. And, so they end up just disappearing. And that's where self-harm comes into play, because it just perpetuates on itself. Whereas you'll see women like blah, 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 blah. It's fine. Girl, you are beautiful just the way you are. Okay, well, that's great. Obviously you're in danger of diabetes, and maybe that's taking it too far the other way. Like maybe it'd be like, but maybe also go for some walks every day, or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Well, and I think with men too, they can also turn that pain outward, and then their own hangups about themselves become a problem with the woman, and they start hating women all over, and women don't like me because they're this, that, and the third thing, and that is, I mean, that goes into that toxic masculinity thing, which a lot of people don't think is real, or I don't know, but I get what you're saying. Stuff is all very complicated.
Oh, I think toxic masculinity is 100% real, but where I piss people off is I think that there's a toxic feminism as well, and that's where people get divided with me, is because I'm like, yep, I 100% agree that toxic masculinity is a problem, and I also 100% agree that toxic masculinity has real physical consequences to it. So like, because we are a sexually dimorphic species and the men are bigger than women, a toxic masculine men, and we know that crimes against women are done by men, like stop bullshitting, like that's what happens. So we know that that's a real thing, and we know that men can hurt women that way. But also there's a toxic feminist kind of perspective where there's such a belittlement of men and a lack of understanding towards men that perpetuates, like you were saying, the toxic masculinity. It's like, well, I might as well hate women because they hate me.
Yeah.
And that's probably why we have the current administration in play, is because a lot of toxic feminists will immediately look at me and be like, you're that guy. You should have a red hat on, and you probably, and I'm like, no, I've spent my entire life marching for indigenous people, going to rallies, standing up for women. I've done all of this stuff throughout my life, but because I'm going to call you out for being an asshole, you're going to say that, I'm, a Trump supporter or something like that. And it's like, no. At some point we have to get to the core of it, which is that we're all people. We all have insecurities, and some people have better support systems than others, and it shows in the data. It shows in the data.
Yeah. And so I was going to follow that up with, like, is this a condition of America, this lack of physical health, or this lack of mental health? Is it the culture we were brought up in? What do you think it is? Why is this such, and it's not just men and women. This country is ultra divided, whether it be racially, financially, gender, straight, gay, like, what is this? How did we get to this point, or have we always been at this point? And now, because of social media, it's so much more obvious.
Well, I think, one of the things about life is that the more information and the quicker you can get it, the less time you have to process what you've already gotten. And self-reflection is so very important. So where it used to be, you could read the Sunday paper and then have a week to think about it and talk to your friends about it, of what was ever going on, and until the next Sunday paper came out. Now it's every 4 minutes something crazy is happening and you're hearing about it, so you're just being slammed altogether. But I'm going to tell you that I believe that the world is being harmed exponentially through capitalism. And what is happening, and I'm not saying that like the basic functionality of capitalism is a bad thing. If it were to stay as the theory is of capitalism, it would be great. Competition, I get a chance, you get a chance, we balance our prices, we all make a living, that kind of thing is great. But what's happened is that capitalism is dividing communities smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And so what we used to see as like nations of people became countries of people, became states of people, became tribes of people, and became families of people. And now what we're seeing capitalism do is it's taking a scalpel into the family and it's cutting all of these individuals out, because they're finding out that in order to make more money, you don't do things like family plans anymore. You don't have family nights at the buffet anymore. You don't have family movie nights where everybody gets a discount and a popcorn anymore. You don't have family day at the park where everybody gets in for $5. So now it's like Netflix plans, streaming plans, all of that stuff you used to have family plans for. But in the last couple of years, you see in this scalpel go through, and they're cutting out to where each individual is now paying $9.99 in that family. Each individual, if you want an additional family member, it's an additional line for $2.99. Blah, 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 blah. So everything is just an additional, so they can carve out these individuals from the family, just like they carved out the countries from the people and the states from the countries and the tribes. Yeah. And they keep doing it in such a same point that now they're even doing it to create dissidence in between a normal loving relationship. They're like, no, we don't even want you to be married anymore, because if you're single, you pay more taxes. And if you're single, you pay more taxes. So let's keep everybody single and miserable. And so all of this information that we see is way more nefarious than just the idea and concept of men and women not getting along, you know?
Yeah. It's, and that all really started, I think, with like the 24-hour news cycle, when you would have the news on 24 hours a day, and they would be reporting a story, and then there would be another story scrolling along the bottom, and then there would be the list of the next story coming up in 4 minutes off on the side. And and then it just became relentless. And you're right, it just becomes too much to process. And I think the trapping is, and I'm guilty of this too, it's like you see the headline and go, well, that's good enough for me. My opinion is now formed, and people are now, and it's getting where people are holding on to those opinions very strongly, even if there's evidence of everything against what they're saying in front of their face. But it's and I've talked about this with so many people. Like, my parents used to put me on a Greyhound when I was like Che's age, and just send me up the coast up here to Portland to see my dad. And, it was like, was the world that much safer then? Probably not. But we didn't have this constant information of how things could go sideways. And I mean, I wouldn't do that in a million years now. I wouldn't do that if he was 15, probably. But, and it was the same when I got up here. My dad would buy me a bus pass, and I would spend all summer cruising all over Portland by myself. I knew how to get everywhere, which malls had this, and I would just be by myself. And it was, and nobody thought twice about it. But now that freaks me the fuck out to even consider that. Like, Che lives right up the street from his school, and it scares me to think of him walking to school, even though it take 5 minutes.
Yeah, there was a lady in New York like 10 years ago. I think it was like 2014 that I read the article, and she was getting like in trouble with CPS because she was sending her kid on the subway in New York. And I think the kid was a little bit older than your boy, but not much, like 9 or 10 or something like that. And she was like, the statistics are the same. And truthfully, when we were kids, it was easier to get away with crime because there wasn't as much footprints. Their DNA was new in the 80s, So it was like, it was easier, And nowadays it's like, no, people still don't want to do that kind of stuff. But I mean, well,
along the lines of this isolation and this divvying up of the families and things, I as it pertains to men, why are we so afraid to ask for help? And why are we so afraid to admit that we're struggling or admit weakness? Like, why is that such an issue now? Or I guess it's always been, but how come we have not got over that hurdle that we're hurting, we need help, we need someone to lift us up off the ground? Why is that so hard for us?
Well, again, I mean, we've lost the camaraderie. So a lot of people won't like me saying this either, but biologically speaking, if you're talking about the relationship between a woman and a woman is actually biologically kind of predisposed to analyze the fitness of her mate. She has to, because a woman can only have, 12 to 15 kids in her lifetime. And this is just biologically speaking. So before anybody blasts me on social media for being a misogynist, this is just the facts of life. You can only have, if you're a woman, maybe 15 kids in your lifetime. Whereas I can have a kid anytime I do the deed. Anytime. So hundreds. Genghis Khan had hundreds and hundreds of children. Changed the genetic line forever. One guy. So there's a physical assessment that is always constantly going on from a mating standpoint. So when a man shows vulnerability, even if his wife or his girlfriend is right there saying, just be vulnerable to me, something clicks in the back of her brain. And unless she is a superwoman that can recognize that biological click just happened and then do the work inside her own head to override that relationship is immediately on a downward slope. It doesn't matter. The minute you show vulnerability to your mate, they've assessed it, they're going to look for a replacement. That's just the way it was supposed to be. Because if you think about it, we've been around for a long time as a species. We've only been civilized, well, if we've gotten civilized, but we've only been civilized for, maybe 10, 12, 15,000 years. I don't know. But very small portion of humanity has actually not had to worry about whether or not you get sick and die, or whether or not you can stop a cougar from getting at your pregnant wife. And so women have to biologically assess that. They don't have a choice. And so if you take away the camaraderie aspect of things that I was talking about before with the vasopressin and the male companionship, then men don't have an outlet for each other. They just don't. And so you look to the person that you're trying to build a family with, and then you're losing that family 5 years later because in the back of her mind, she wants adventure, or you've gotten boring, or whatever excuse occurs at that point.
Mm-hmm. So then it would be, I guess, to further that, men are biologically, it's against what's biologically in them to admit weakness or show vulnerability, and culturally as well.
Yeah, I would say that maybe not necessarily against our biology, but it's definitely against our biology to show it outside of a specific setting.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
You can only show weakness during ceremonial times, vision quests, et cetera, which is probably why a lot of those things exist in historic culture. You have different ways for men to outlet their emotions that don't necessarily show weakness.
Yeah. This is, it makes me sad, dude, because I have never had I have kind of what's called like prepackaged vulnerability, and I think probably everybody does, where you're comfortable showing a certain level of vulnerability with certain people, and it varies from person to person. But the number of times that I feel completely okay being totally raw with somebody is not often. And that includes the relationship I'm in now. And, you know, Laura met me when I was at my absolute lowest point. She met me, I mean, really just a few months after my son died. And I was in rough shape, and she really helped me pull myself out of that tailspin I was in. But a lot of it, I think, while I was at that lowest point, I was also at my most vulnerable, and it actually, in this case, worked in our favor because she was getting to see not the presentation version of me. She was seeing the absolute roughest draft version of me. But she's very empathetic, and I could see that version of me making people run away as well.
Well, yeah, and I just, just for the record, I see you. Like, that is, I haven't had to deal with that kind of hurt, so I can't imagine. I did lose my sister, but I see you, man. I just want you to know that. That's a heartbreak that is above and beyond all other heartbreaks. And I don't think that any parent should ever have to deal with that. I mean,
yeah.
So, yeah, I just want you to know that I see you on that.
It's really wild. Like, I've told this story before, but it's relevant because, my son Che, who I live with now, just turned 7, September 30th. So the day that Laura went into labor was on the anniversary of when we decided to take my first son off of, no, let me back up. It was the anniversary of us taking my first son into the hospital for the last time. So then the day Che was born, which was the next day, the 30th, was like the anniversary of when we decided to take him off life support. And so it was like when Che was born, I started bawling my eyes out, dude, because I was like, I cannot believe these two things are converging. And he was 3 weeks early, Che was. So in my mind, I don't know. I'm like, is my first son kind of like, okay, you need to go now. You need to go right now. And because, October 2nd is a hard day for me. But I don't know, man. I'm not sure where I was going with that. But, the point is that my dad also lost a kid. My sister Leslie, she overdosed. Later on, her son overdosed. My cousin Raymond, he had problems with alcohol. It killed him, killed my grandma, it's like, what is going on in this family where, like, if we don't get a hold of this shit, it kills us? And I mean, that's not the case with my son, but it's so much loss and that would be my indigenous side, all this generational trauma that keeps getting passed down. I don't have that as much on my mom's side. And I don't know, man, it's a trip. It trips me out quite a bit.
Well, and I think the important thing for you to ask yourself is, why are you recognizing that? I mean, that's the question that's the $1 million question here. Why do you recognize that? Why do you recognize the connections? Mm-hmm. Because some people go through life and don't recognize the connections. They don't even consider that there's a connection involved, some sort of higher sort of calling, right? And so, as you ask yourself that, why is my brain or my spirit, connecting all of these dots? What does that mean to me? What does that mean to the people that I'm touching, Yeah. And that's what's beautiful about the whole situation, and the cost that you've endured is that you have, it's opened a door for you somehow or something, you know, perhaps. I don't know. I'm just throwing shit out at you. But I would definitely say that would be the question of the day is, why are you noticing these connections? Why are you associating all of this loss with a generational sort of cyclical, you know, cause and effect? And does that have anything to do with why you're creating this podcast to reach out to people?
Right.
You know,
I would say probably, yeah. And the other, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff like that. Laura's birthday, my first son's birthday, a day apart. I was 38 when I had Che. My dad was 38 when he had me. Like, it's just, you know, these things. And then I just recently did a podcast with, I discovered a new cousin through 23andMe on my dad's side. And her mom has the same birthday as Che. And, you know, it's like, these could all be coincidences or they can all be convergences. And at the end of the day, what's the difference? Because I felt something in all of those things. They're all having an impact on me. And I feel like when I share them, that they potentially could have an impact on somebody else. So what's the difference if it's just random? It's a feeling that I'm left with. I think that is important.
Well, and, you know, here's another thought that, you know, may or may not be something to consider, but if there's a sort of darkness that is doing its best to sever connection, like I was mentioning earlier, and if there is some sort of darkness that's in there trying to cut families apart, then it would be very interesting to consider the idea that acknowledgement of the interconnectivity, protecting that severance, you know, the idea that maybe the opposing force is the recognition of all of these connections and that we all are connected, that the white side of your family, that you know, you are a connection between generational pain and generational stability. So how can you utilize that connection as your brain is taking in all this information to help others?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I don't know, man. Some heavy shit. You know, like
we're going to need to do a shot, man.
yeah, for real. I know. I'm ready to throw it all away. Yeah, I don't know, man. Life is a trip, dude. And you know, to get back to sort of the health part of this, you know, I enjoy getting older. Like, I enjoy the fact that as every year goes by, I'm either, you know, removing some of the clay or adding to it, and the clay being myself. And I enjoy stripping away all the bullshit that I thought was important in my 20s or who I thought I needed to portray myself as. And part of that is relative to this podcast. And I do think how I behaved in my 20s in the Club Savvy days is I was not super connected to my native side. And I was doing my best impression of a crazy drunk Indian. I thought that's what I was supposed to be. Like, I thought that's what we were supposed to do. And, like, you know, and I did spend time as a kid with my dad and with family, but it was these little spurts. And so I didn't really know, you know, how to be native, and didn't realize that because I'm native, however I want to be is me being native. But I ended up having a lot of shame about that, because I really felt like I was not representing my people well. And the caricature became the person. And instead of just playing a drunk Indian, I just became a drunk Indian. I just became a drunk, period. And so I think part of what this was supposed to be, this podcast, and it was originally a documentary idea. It was like, I need to find out who the hell I am and what this means. And I should be proud of being native, not just because it's different, because there's a struggle involved.
I think that if you historically look at at groups of people that have been colonized, I think that we are in a unique kind of structure when it comes to First Nations people in America and the colonists that, you know, colonized them, because there is a current, 300 years later, 400 years later, whitewashing of history going on as we speak, whereas other nations that have colonized kind of go through a remorse process and kind of a reintegration process and kind of an acceptance process that, like Australia is a great example, right? They were horrible, to their Aboriginal tribes there. But now there's kind of a movement towards acceptance and a movement towards, giving them their power back. Whereas here in America, in 2025, we have a new administration that is trying to make it sound like First Nations people weren't massacred. Right. They're giving medals to people that did horrific, evil things.
Yeah.
And it's like, no. Like, no. And so if there's a group of people that are getting browbeaten more than First Nations people in America, I don't know who it would be. Yeah. Because like I said, there's just no acceptance. There's no accountability. It's like white colonists in America are the cultural narcissists of the world, and they just refuse to take responsibility for all the shit that they've done. And I don't know what that looks like, what accountability would look like. I'm just saying it's not being done. And not only is it not being done, it's like being turned around and respawn as like, nope, didn't happen. Yeah. Didn't happen. Everybody's better off because we're here. What?
Yeah, right.
Fucking serious?
Yeah. And it's interesting because I also feel like right now Native visibility is at an all-time high. And I think the world is getting to see that there's more to Native people than the stoic Indian out on the plains, or the drunk Indian on the side of the road, or the wailing Indian woman. I mean, Native people are creative. We're funny. We're beautiful. We're smart. We're athletic. I mean, there's ballers in the NBA right now that are indigenous, and, I appreciate this level of visibility, and I hope that brings with it not a reframe, but a more accurate version of events in history.
Yeah. And I for me, it's just like, if you want to, integrate people from different ethnicities into a culture, like, NBA or the sports or whatever culture you're integrating them into, more power to you. That's exactly what makes the world a better place. But when you are, trying to make every indigenous person represent Tonto to your Lone Ranger, you're an asshole. Yeah. And I think that's what's happening. It's like we should be able to embrace a good Sundance, a good festival, and then watch that same dude, go out and hop on an airplane and fly and go win an NBA championship. Like we should be able to see that kind of thing and be like, man, I kind of like to go watch one of those Sundances, Yeah. But if we're not doing that because we're trying to just focus on the idea that, oh, they're better off. Look at him flying in his private jet. Look at him. Yeah. He's flying. Yeah. It's better because we're here. It's like, no.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, this was going to be, yeah, we somehow managed to spin this back into like my original concept. It was supposed to be men's health, physical health, mental health, and we somehow spun it back. But that's good. That's good because that's what it's for. And I like that. That's good.
Well, I spent a lot of time in college studying indigenous American culture, and one of the reasons why I was fascinated with it back in the day is there have you ever heard or seen like a white cowboy start bullshitting about something and then say like, yeah, I'm part Navajo or something like that?
Oh, yeah.
Happens all the time, right? And so there was this thing that I was always fascinated about where, you know, you would hear these cowboys bullshitting, every single one of them, you know, as pale as an onion, and they start bragging about how, well, yeah, I'm 1/18th Cherokee or whatever, you know.
The Cherokee princess, that's the one that we always joke about. The woman that's grandma or great grandma was a Cherokee princess. That's the one.
Yeah.
That's the common trope.
And I found it very fascinating that the brutalization of the First Nations people by the colonists would alter over time to like a sort of like romanticizing the idea of the indigenous. Like, like way back in the day, it was just, you know, dances with wolves type thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, which, talk about a whitewashed movie. I don't know if you ever read the book, but I
never read the book.
In the book, his wife that he fell in love with was Native. She wasn't a white.
Really?
Yeah, she wasn't a white girl but Hollywood had to make her white, I guess.
They had her out there looking like fucking Wilma Flintstone with her hair all crazy, and you know,
I mean,
it's a good movie, but
fantastic actress. Never hated a group of people so much as I did when they shot that horse, but you know, it's the problem that America has in a big way, in my opinion. Like, we got to stop whitewashing this thing, because like look at you and me. Like, we're buddies. Like, I consider you a really good friend, and I can sit here and talk to you about your culture, about your background, about your history, and I can talk about how my ancestors fucked everybody up. I don't feel guilty about it. I wasn't there, but I can acknowledge it and say, let's go forward. Instead of like, no, let's sweep it under the rug because, you know, whatever.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying. That right now there's more Native filmmakers, there's more Native actors. And what I appreciate is we're doing Native content. It's being accepted on a broader level, but I want it to be to the level where it's not Native content. It's just a good show. It's just a good movie. It doesn't have to be those natives made something good. It should just be, it's good. But my friend brought up a point. Would Friday have been as good if it wasn't made by a black director and black actors and this and that? If Woody Allen directed Friday, it would probably not be that good of a movie. But it has a broader appeal. But you know, I don't know.
Well, and here's a barking dog. Here's a barking dog that I would call out as like, would a culture like, okay, for Friday, for example, okay, if Woody Allen had directed Friday and it was the same exact movie that came out, the same exact movie, would it have gotten shit on because he directed it? That's like an interesting like thought process, because it goes kind of like this weird both way, because I guarantee you a black person watching Friday, whether or not they knew who the director was, white or black, laughing their ass off, doesn't give a shit about whether or not it's the activists, it's the white ladies that would be like, "This is a terrible movie. Did you see the way this white director represented them?" And it's like, lady, relax. This is my friend Tyrone, and he's laughing his ass off. Let him laugh, But but you would have to ask yourself, like, would it?
Well, I mean, and a good modern example of that is Killers of the Flower Moon, which had Lily Gladstone, a native cast, and that was directed by Martin Scorsese. And there was definitely two camps on that where, yes, they're based on what I'm told or what I've read, I should say, they're representing, I don't remember what tribe it is, but that tribe is being represented well in that movie. And they had many advisors, cultural advisors on set. But also that movie left out a large part of the joy of the tribe or the other side of the tribe, but it also fit the movie. But the point being, there was natives saying, why can't you make that movie with a native director? Why does it have to be Martin Scorsese directing native people on how to act native? And so, yeah, it's a good point, but it's also like, you're being directed by Martin Scorsese. What are you complaining about? Like, so yeah, I guess that's an interesting point to make, that exact same movie, white director, would it have been shit on? Yeah, that's a good point.
And I mean, I don't have the answers to any of this kind of stuff. I just think that it's the conversation that's important, especially if we're going to try to move forward as a larger whole, and especially if we're going to try to stop the division, because you can't be inclusive and then still be cutting people out. Like you just can't. And I think that's one of the problems, in our political polarization right now, is like, you have all of these leftists that are like, we need to be inclusive, but as soon as a guy like me stands up and says something, they're like, you need to go over with them. It's like, okay, well, you did that to males 18 to 27, and look who's in office now, and the whole thing is going to shit. So, when are we going to start having the right kinds of conversations?
Yeah.
Because I do think that I do think I am an example of a white person that has empathy. Like I will never claim to understand what it's like to be a native person. I will devour literature on the subject, but I'll never claim it. I will go sit in a sweat tent with you. I will do everything and still not claim to do it. But, I think that I could, after doing all of those things, probably bring forth an interesting perspective on it. Yeah. And not have to try to pretend to be one, Right.
Yeah. And you may be able to reach people that the native people aren't. They may, just based on how you look, that you might reach a different audience that we may, or anybody may shut down. I don't know.
Hallelujah. I had a long phone argument with a bisexual female, and I opened the argument that was basically just the same way I said. I said, I have no idea what it's like to be a female or bisexual. I don't. And I said, but if I'm going to open up with that and admit it, you have no idea what it's like to be straight or a male. And she would not capitulate to that. She refused. Because there's just this sort of thing where it's like, no, we're the devil, and everything else is judged based on the fact that we're the devil. You know, the straight white man is the most evil man. And it's like, well, there's a lot of data that does not support that. I see where you're coming from, obviously. Yeah. Anybody with a brain can see that there's been plenty of straight white devils in the world. Yeah. However, if you're going to put all of us into that bubble, every single one, without having a conversation with us, then that's how the younger versions are going to vote against your rights. The younger versions of me aren't going to be smart enough to say, I see what you're saying. they're going to say, I'm not that way. Fuck you. I'm going to go over here where people accept me, you know?
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's why we've got a mess.
That's exactly right. I agree. And it is messy. I mean, we got the National Guard on their way to my hometown. So,
And did you see what he said about that when he was on the phone with the governor?
You remind me, I did, but I mean, that was 3 days ago. So
he basically was like, you don't need the National Guard. And the governor's like, no, we don't need the National Guard. Mm-hmm. And he was like, so what am I seeing on TV then? It's like, what? Yeah. What do you mean? What are you seeing on TV? Like, the way it's supposed to work is you're supposed to like call the governor and be like, hey, do you need federal resources to help you with any of this stuff? Because we can send in the National Guard so your police can be freed up to do this, or this. And we can send in the National Guard to do, this type of reconstruction over here and this and that and the other thing, or, whatever.
Yeah.
But he just sends them in, doesn't even give orders to what they're supposed to do. Right. And then it's like, and then the National Guard get there and they're like, hi.
Yeah.
We don't know what we're doing here. It's like,
yeah, it's real wild. And this is why, I mean, the comment section we all know is not a good place, but and that's the question I just keep wanting to ask is because people will say, good, that's what I voted for. And I'm going, but what? To do what? Why? And really what it is a show of power. It has nothing to do with cleaning up anything or knocking people over the head with, it's just, he's trying to flex, and that's really all it is. But the people that live here, we don't want it. We don't need it. Anything that you see that's happening in Portland right now is in pretty much a 1 block thing, and it's all ICE related. There's no need for any of it. And the footage they like to show is from George Floyd protests, and even that was limited to a couple block area in downtown. I mean, it's all.
Well, and the idea that the right consistently clings on the idea that somehow property damage equates to loss of life blows my fucking mind. It's like, well, the evil Democrats burned down cities. It's like, for reals. And it's like, but people aren't dangling from trees when they leave. So what's worse? Something you can rebuild after an insurance, the insurance companies are that influential in government that you can't understand that there's insurance on those buildings, that they'll be rebuilt, that it's property, and that there's no insurance for the kid that's dangling from the tree that did not self-harm because somebody else just paid for an autopsy and his head was smashed in before he was dangling. I mean, there's such a humongous difference, and yet the right clings to this idea, they burned down cities. Okay, so what? So what? Oh.
Okay. All right. Anyways, man. So what is your routine to get back to the physical health? What kind of stuff are you doing for yourself at, what'd you say, 49? What kind of stuff are you doing on a daily or to kind of keep yourself mentally and physically fit?
Yes. Okay, so I gym 6 days a week. I do 2-a-days on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and I do yoga 4 days a week. And so I sort of do 2-a-days every day, but yoga is so much different than gymming. I don't really put it in the same category. Mm-hmm. So as I hit age about 45, so about 4 years ago, I stopped doing like isolated muscle workouts in the gym. And so the vast majority of my workouts are full body workouts. Although I do still do a chest day, and I still do a back day, and I still do a shoulder day. But like the vast majority of my workouts, like my Saturday workout is sleds all day, cauldrons, and then leg raises for core. And then today when we get done, I'll be going to do core all day. Now on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I do a circuit workout, which is a 2-mile run to an outdoor park, which I totally recommend anybody to do, no matter what the weather is. The worse the weather is, the more you should do it. The hotter it is, the more you should do it. Like, just get out and face the earth we live in. And then I do 5 exercises on that outdoor thing. I run, and I run around the park. It's about half a mile around the park. And then I do that 4 times and then run home. That's Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so, yeah, I'm working out all the time. I don't drink. I eat. Well, right now I eat clean as fuck. Normally I would say that I'm a pretty good eater. I've got a sweet tooth since I quit drinking. So donuts are my bane. Cinnamon rolls. Oh, I love cinnamon rolls. Oh, I can't think about it. Right now I'm 0 sugar right now. So, but yeah, just consistency and discipline, and that's it. That's the number one thing, staying consistent. Like, even if you are exhausted and you are tired, go to the gym. Go. Get on the treadmill. Go. You know, even if it's chest day, get on the treadmill. You don't want to do anything. Just go. Get on the treadmill. And then you're there. So go do an exercise. Do some push-ups. You don't feel like benching? Do some push-ups. But there's the bench. Go do the bench. So like just every time, just do something, you know, especially when you don't want to do it, you know? Yeah. And if you work out at home, leave your house before you work out. That's another thing. Like I have a little yoga studio / like gym thing. Like if I need to work out because I missed open hours at my gym or something and I missed my workout, I have a little yoga studio and some free weights and a bench and stuff. And so what I'll do is I'll go for a walk around the block with Soka, and you see it. She heard that word. You see that shit?
For sure.
So we'll go for a walk around the block and then come back in ready to work out. You need that portal. You need that portal switch when you're depressed. When your brain's fucking with you and you don't want to do something, you need to walk out of your house, walk out of your, you know, you have to get out of that portal of what your vision is so you can change your mindset. Yeah.
So that's all you got to do, everybody. Just six days a week, couple 2-a-days is sprinkled in there. So I do work out at home. And we used to we still have a tonal. It's still at our old house. Tonal has been amazing. I don't think anybody's getting swole off of it, but it's right there. And if, like you're saying, if you just need to do something, it's a good place. But it also, I mean, it's expensive and it comes with a subscription fee. And so that's not necessarily for everybody, but at my house now, I've got kettlebells and a weighted vest, and usually, and that's kind of what I did too, is I switched to total body workouts, full body workouts rather than, and mine are usually limited. I usually do 30 to 40 minutes a night, and it works. I'm sweating my balls off at the end of it. I feel good. And here's interesting, as far as we were talking about aesthetically, I was playing basketball every Sunday and doing my workouts. So when my work sponsored a basketball team, I was the oldest guy on the team easily, and usually the oldest guy on the court. And I was logging more minutes than anybody. Like, these youngsters are gassing out quick, and I'm just out there just pounding away. And but I don't look that great with a shirt off. You know what I mean? And now I've switched to, I still go shoot around, but I've switched to sprints on Sundays and plantar fasciitis allowing it. But sprints on the track or the bleachers or whatever. So I would say I'm in shape. I just don't look all that great, doing it, which is, I got to admit, a little frustrating. But I also realize I'm 45 and, I've got a family here and, which is so,
well, and you only really have two options, right? Like once you crest really like 45, I think 45 is literally like the cutoff of like when you have to decide like how much the aesthetics really mean to you, because at that point you have to start cutting things out of your diet. Like if you really want to look all glammy, like it starts becoming I can only have wild rice and fish, all of this kind of stuff just ends up being more and more limited. And it's like, or do you want to be 45, feel good, eat what you want to eat when you want to eat it, but be mindful about it, and just have that like youthful vibe, right? And so I think that's like a balance, because like if you look at guys like The Rock, Dave Batista,
yeah.
Yeah.
Batista.
And you look at these guys, they're having, they're 52, they're right in their early 50s, they're having heart problems. They're, and they're these monstrous men that have like had to like drop all of their assistance for their workouts because their hearts are going out, and so they look like a normal person. And it's like we have it in our perception that we've got to look like these giants, whereas you just heard my workout routine. I don't look anything like the fucking Rock. Yeah, like I'm pretty built.
I mean, your hairstyles are
we go to the same barber. But it's like you're not going to get that like superhero build no matter what. So do what you can do to feel good, And I work out. I work out the way I work out now for my mental health. That's why I work out so much. It's literally something I have to do to maintain my mental stability.
Yeah. And there are days, I mean, it's, life is so relentless, man. And there are days, when it's a workout day and this is my podcast studio. All my kettlebells and shit are right over there. There are days I walk into this room and I work out at night after everything's done. So I go to work. I do most of the cooking. Then I got to spend some time with Che. Once he goes to bed at around 8, that's when I come in here to do it. And there's times I'm like, God damn, dude, I don't. But I will do what you're saying. I'm like, all right, let me just curl this kettlebell for a little bit. I mean, that'll be something. I'm like, okay, well, that feels right. All right, let me do a little bit of a shoulder press. And then the next thing you know, it's not a full-blown ass workout, but it's something, because once I kind of got that, once I got that idea that I couldn't do it out of my head, and just did it, then it just, it is something. It's better than...
Or, it's just don't want it, right? Like, I don't want it.
Yeah.
Well, then just go do it anyway.
Yeah.
I know you don't want to. Who wants to? Everybody wants to, like, look like a model or like a Greek statue without doing any work, but that's never going to happen. So just do it.
Well, that's one of the things too that I've noticed about myself is there's been times where I've kind of looked for that quick fix, because I'll see like an Instagram ad for Total T whatever, or whatever the hottest supplement is, and I try it. I'm like, well, that didn't do shit, and now I'm out $60, and it's snake oil most of the time. But so where did you get this sense of discipline from that you are just going to do? I know you said it's a mental health thing, but just sticking to it all these years, I mean, is that just, how do you train discipline?
Well, the first thing that you have to understand is that life is seasonal, and you're going to go through times when there's more of a struggle than not, and you're in less of a flow state with your discipline, and you're going to be challenged with things. And I think one of the things that you have to recognize is your nervous system talks to you. And so when you are feeling less motivated, like I went through a phase last year for about 6 months where I was struggling to go to yoga twice a week. I was struggling to go to the gym 3 times a week. And I just didn't want to do it. And by no means do I not recognize that a lot of people don't even do that much. But for me, that was like cutting like half of what I'm normally used to doing. And I couldn't figure it out. And it turned out that I was in an incredibly toxic relationship. And I was spending so much energy trying to be someone's therapist, someone's rock, someone's emotional support, and then spending my free time, just nurturing someone, that I was draining myself, and my nervous system was telling me, like, dude, you can't maintain this level of stress that you're dumping onto this person and maintain your consistency. So you have to listen to your body as it's going through these seasonal changes. And when you can't figure out why you're exhausted all the time, it's because you're dealing with something that you shouldn't be dealing with. Like something is not yours and you're trying to own it. And so you have to learn to get rid of those things that you don't own. And you have to be willing to walk away in like solidarity to yourself from those things in order to get your groove back, so to speak. And a lot of people don't recognize that when they're losing motivation, that it doesn't have anything to do with them usually. It's outside forces. So you have to look at those. The other thing that you have to remember is it's going to take you twice as long to get better than it did for you to get worse. So if you are obese and you have been obese for a decade, you have to be prepared to work for 20 years to be in a better self, Yeah. And a lot of, like you said earlier about like the online trends or whatever, I worked for those guys. I did that for 10 years. I was a ghostwriter for fitness, people. And every new little diet that came out, every new little supplement that came out, they would prop up or whatever. It was all bullshit. It's all bullshit. You're not, if you're going to lose 100 pounds in 90 days, chances are you're going to rubber band back the minute that you go through a rough spell with your nervous system. You're going to gain that 100 pounds plus at the minute something goes wrong in your life. So it really takes like a long-term kind of effect. And as far as supplements go, I only know of 2 supplements that seem to stand the test of time. And that is beet juice and creatine.
Creatine.
Those are the only 2 things that I know that stand the test of time. And if you don't know about beet juice, my friend, start doing beet juice. There's different ways you can do it too. You can get like beet powder and beet chews and stuff like that. But like beet juice is the shit.
In what way?
So after you get it in your system, like if you go straight like beet juice, like 4 ounces a day, 2 ounces in the morning, 2 ounces at night, after you get it going through your system for about a week, you'll start your entire like vascular system opens up. So your blood flow all over your body opens up. Your strength increases, your endurance increases. All of the things that men like to do increase because your blood flow gets open and better.
Beet juice. Okay, you heard it here first.
Beet Juice.
I'm gonna sell a beet juice something if I'm gonna make some money.
Do it. Hell yeah. Well,
so,
try it first. Try it first.
Yeah, I'll try. I'll try it. Yeah. Maybe I'll get a beet juice sponsor. That'd be
There you go.
All right. So let's start wrapping this up a little bit. So what do you think well, first of all, how does yoga benefit your gym routine? How does it complement that in your 2-a-days and how do those two work in conjunction with each other?
So they don't, kind of. They do, but they don't. So yoga is an entire different engagement of muscles. So you're going to be engaging long muscle groups, and you're going to be pushing like flexibility of joints and all of that kind of stuff. You have to remember that your body only has one pump, and that's your heart. And we have several different fluid systems. So we have spinal column, spinal fluids. We have the lymphatic system. We have all these different fluid systems in our bodies that carry the hormones that we need to the good places. And so what yoga does is yoga turns your entire body into a pump, and it moves all the fluids into all the places that they don't get to. Mm-hmm. And so that's why it's really beneficial to your mental health, and just kind of understanding that if you stand on your head, the fluid from your spinal cord will saturate your brain, and it helps heal your brain. So there's a lot of things about it that are good that way, but it's counterintuitive to the gym, because your gym is working on your short muscle groups and your resistance training. So you have to make sure you separate the two. So either do gym first and then yoga later, or do yoga early in the morning and then gym in the evening, if that's what you're going to do. And then just realize that if you're still doing gym, you're not going to end up with one of those, slim, sleek yoga bods where you see people that are, putting their foot over their head and shit. So when I'm teaching yoga and I get up in front of the class, I'm like, so take a look at me. My foot does not go over my head. All right. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to get into a lot of poses that get our body, our fluids pumping. I do a lot of strength poses and a lot of strength, kind of oriented things with yoga. But there is nothing that will burn your body fat more than yoga.
Yeah.
Yoga is insane. It's insane. And hot yoga, because of the conditioning that you have to do when it comes to, just sitting in a 110-degree room versus then functioning in a 110-degree room, is unreal. So you have the body conditioning and the release of all those toxins, and then you have the actual development of the long muscles and the flexibility and all that stuff. So it's absolutely crucial. And I think that everybody that works out should do yoga at least once a week. But that's just me.
What would a men's health movement look like to you? What's something somebody could do right now to kind of start on the path to better physical health and mental health?
Join a men's group. There's lots of different men's groups. Start out by listening to podcasts like this that are talking about it, so you know that it's okay to talk about. But there's plenty of influencers out there that are legit. I mean, you need to vet everybody, but there's plenty of people that are legit and that really truly care and really have some great groups of people that you can do. And then eventually just kind of upgrade and then start doing some men's retreats. And then once you start doing that, then try looking for some co-ed retreats. So make it a progress to where your mental health for men ends up integrating into like group discovery with men and women as an end result. Because as you're starting to understand yourself, there's nothing better than to, surround yourself with a group of women that have a completely different perspective and a completely different path to getting to where you went.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden you level up again. So it's like, yeah, just first of all, ask the questions. Second of all, start lurking around, finding things that are interest you. And then third of all, start engaging in those things and realizing that it's not bad to do. And then, join a couple of groups, get together with some of your friends, get rid of your friends that are toxic. Yeah. Like if your friendship group is a bunch of Bitcoin bros and they're putting you down every time they see you because your shoes look funny, don't fucking hang out with those guys. Yeah. Like, don't. Like, it's not worth your time. Or if you hang out with them, just create an invisible shield around who you are as a person and hang out with them for the financial benefits and learn to compartmentalize the difference between, your engagement in capitalism versus your engagement in self. And then find a group of friends that you can actually, they're gonna compliment your shoes, even if there's holes in it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's the major thing that men need to realize. And we don't know that it's out there, but it is out there.
Yeah. One of the areas I'll say lacking. I think actually Laura would say lacking, but I don't even really have any friends in Portland. My two best friends both live in LA, but I think that was part of the benefit of basketball every Sunday. And it was a 40 and up basketball league. And I enjoyed going and to what you were speaking to earlier. We're on a team. We're trying to accomplish a task. We're trying to win a game. And, and I met guys there that were cool and all that. And then Laura would hit me with, well, you think you'll see him again? You think you'll hang out? And I'm always like, nah, cause there's still that part of me that's that little kid survival mode that's thinks I can do everything myself and depend on myself, which I've proven I can't. But it's a very hard, and the same thing that happened. I interviewed this native guy a couple of days ago, who's an actor and an author, and we are the same age and graduated the same. We had all these parallels, and she said the same thing. You guys are gonna start hanging out? And I was like, I don't know, but so I'm always contradicting myself by I will make these connections in podcasts or basketball or wherever, but when it comes to furthering that or embellishing that, I get closed off and I go, no, I don't need that. I'm fine, But I got sober by going to groups, going to Smart Recovery and AA and all those things, which are all group oriented. So I know that it works, and at the same time, resistant to it.
I don't know as if what you're telling me is resistance per se, and this is just an observation. So take it for what you will, but you just need to find groups of men that are survivors like you are. So like you found the groups that. Your basketball team, for example, or your AA group, or anger management groups, or whatever men are going through on that thing. You're sitting down with a group of guys that have a problem with anger, so that's why it's helping you deal with anger. So there, believe it or not, there are groups dedicated to men with a survival instinct that have no desire to be friends with anybody. Like there's people out there like that. You're talking to one of them. Like I'm the same person I've always been, but like my friendships are, and my friendships are for life, obviously. Like we've been friends for 25 years. And when I'm friends with somebody, it doesn't matter how long it's been since I've seen you or talked to you. We're picking up where we left off every single time. Yeah. But I'm still not a go out there and make friends sort of guy.
Yeah.
I've got my movie group of friends that I like to be creative with that are brilliant guys, and I've filtered out the people there that I don't like. I've
Yeah.
got my millionaire, high producing financial friends that I'm working on my invention with. I go out and hang out with them sometimes, and I filter out the ones I don't like there. And then I have like my groups of people that I'm super, super tight with that we, can cry to if we need to or whatever.
Yeah.
And you just got to do that, so
Yeah.
you can find them,
I think I might need to uncheck some of the boxes on my filter, though. I think because I do believe I might be missing out on some genuine connections because of my own skittishness about, like Bill Hicks had I think he had like a people haters club joke, where he's like, "Welcome to the people haters club. I'm disappointed to see so many of you here." And but anyways, yeah,
Well,
and I don't, and Laura is usually, she's more often right than she's wrong, and she knows me, and I think her concern is that if I limit myself to what's happening in this house, and I don't explore other options, that I'm going to burn out.
Well,
and she's 100% right.
yeah, and you sound like you really admire her advice, and she probably is right. And I would just like to add to that idea that you can be guarded and still be seeking. Like, people have this weird, like, black and white concept about where their boundaries lie, and that's not necessarily reality. Like, if you just stuck to the black and white version of boundaries or defense mechanisms, you would have never reached out for love again when your heart was broken with your loss. But we do have the ability to find a sort of state of healing while we're accepting and learning new concepts. And so, yeah, maybe unchecking some of the boxes, or maybe just realizing that the boxes are more prohibitive in the first place. And you just need one box, which is don't hang out with assholes. Yeah. Because you're going to find them everywhere. But that doesn't mean that everyone is an asshole. So you just kind of got to be like, all right, I'm going to give this person a chance, but if this and this and this flag pops up, I don't got to call them again. And you don't owe anybody an excuse, right? You can hang out with somebody as a friend, just like you hung out with a chick that you wanted to hang out with, and then after a while, you're just like, I don't really like you. You can do that no matter what. Like, in fact, it's more, what's the word? Empowering, or not empowering, but it's more protective for you to be able to set somebody down after hanging out with a few times and be like, you know what, I'm not gonna call this person back.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they hit me up, whatever.
Right. Yeah. Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I really appreciate all the twists and turns that it took, because I had more notes written for this conversation, and a buttload of stuff we talked about is nowhere on any of these pages. So I really appreciate all the where it went. I think we covered some really good stuff. How do you think it went?
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I'm happy to do it again, man. Anytime.
All right. Well, yeah, I'm ready to wrap this up. Do you want to plug your book or anything like that? Or I can add the links in the descriptions where to get it, and the audiobooks and the physical copies and all that.
Yeah, balefirebooks.com, www.balefirebooks.com. And I'm probably 3 months out from my first relationship sort of autobiography, I guess you could say. Just kind of a summary of some relationships I've been in my life, including my father, my mother, some things like that, and how it's affected me. That's going to be coming out here soon. That's going to be entitled Her Forever Maybe. That will
Forever
be
Maybe. That's a great title.
Yeah, thanks. That will be on balefirebooks.com. Basically entails my relationship with a covert narcissist and everything that was. I shouldn't say she was a covert narcissist because I'm not a psychologist and she hasn't asked me for a analysis, but the behaviors that were demonstrated definitely seems to check all of the boxes of that. So just kind of a summary of how that happened and how I had to deal with that. So, but yeah, that should be out by Christmas time. I'm hoping.
Okay.
So,
well, the TikTokers, you want to help me out, you can go to my Kickstarter. You can look up Geno Ray or Nativeasicanbe. I'm trying to get to the point where I can upgrade. My lighting rig right now is literally a desk lamp pointing at paper plates. So yeah, I'm trying to up my game, get a better computer, mics, all that stuff. Because I'm also taking this show on the road, so to speak. I'm going to be getting a tattoo while interviewing the person tattooing me. I'm going to be going to a rock show with a native drummer and interviewing him before he goes on stage. There's a lot of stuff happening with this show. It's really important to me. I don't think it's ever going to make any money, but what I want it to do is be a connection point, like we've been saying this entire time, where people can hear it. And really, I like that people can tell their stories, especially because a lot of people are answering questions on this that they've never been asked. And I appreciate that aspect of it. But anyways, yeah, Geno Ray is my Kickstarter. The show is Native as I Can Be, and it's on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and YouTube, and all those good places. So,
by the way,
man,
you can give yourself permission to make money at it too. There's nothing wrong with making money at it. This is capitalism. So as evil as capitalism is, we're functioning in it. So you deserve to make money and be able to get the word out.
What I would like, and that would be nice. I want to be known as the guy specifically within this community I am in, the Native community, where if I reach out or cross paths with a Native director or a Native actor, they go, "Oh, you're the guy with the podcast. Yeah, I think we have something we can do together." So to be able to kind of bridge the gap and just be a little more and with a bigger reach, some of these issues that I like to talk about can be seen by more people. Because we're going to get heavy up into this shit here pretty soon, man. This community, as beautiful as it is, has a lot of problems. So, but anyway,
hell yeah,
man. I appreciate the conversation, dude. It was good catching up with you. I've not seen you in years, but yeah, you're a good guy, straight up guy. I love your content. A fellow bleeding heart liberal such as myself, and it was good to talk to you, man.
Yeah, you too, brother. Anything you need, man, you just hit me up.
All right, man. I'll see you soon.
Okay.
Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.